Hey fam, happy Monday. Hope you're dealing with this time change better than I am, okay? So this is my review of Black Monday Season 1, Episode 7, and we're now 65 days until Black Monday, all right? So this episode begins with Blair and Tiff, and they're at home discussing meeting her parents the next day. And basically, Blair is stating that he would like to pay for their new place they're going to move to. Because currently where they stay at, her parents pay for it. He's just stating they'd have to move into a not so expensive area, and we all know Tiff is too bougie for that, so she's not in agreement. All right. So let me see. Blair wants to postpone the wedding. Basically, he ends up telling Tiffany that, and Tiff is like freaking out, but she's absolutely refusing. Okay. Somebody's knocking at the door, and Blair goes to answer the door, and the person at the door throws a bag over his head. It's a cloth bag, okay? And they kidnap him. All right. So then we now see Dawn is at home with Spence. She's reading a magazine with the evil twins who are plotting against Mo on the cover of it, okay? Spence is excited over the comets that are supposed to fall that evening. He calls her out basically for lying to him at the engagement party that they went to. So they were having regular conversation, but he calls her out because he's still pissed about it. And she pushes for a makeup. You know, she doesn't want to be fighting anymore. He finally agrees, and she's stating, I have to go to Tiff's engagement party, but I'll bring a bottle home. After the bachelorette party. Now, he doesn't want her to go, but she talks him into it. She's like, I won't even have one drink, and I'll be right back. Okay, so then we're back to Blair, and he's waking up in Mo's limo/sports boxcar that I spoke about earlier. Just an ugly ass ride. My goodness. Okay, so Mo explains, you know, that I kidnapped you. This is what you do for bachelor parties. And Blair wants an apology basically over the engagement party and everything that took place there and all the bullshit that happened that night, because Mo, in fact, was responsible for a vast majority of it. Let me see. And Mo explains basically that he doesn't apologize to white people because of slavery. Okay, this moment was kind of funny. It really was. Because he's a whole asshole. There's no way to get around that. Mo's an ass, okay? But Blair's not happy, basically, and as soon as the car comes to a sort of a stop, he's jumping out, and basically he sees two suspect-looking guys standing there, and the two guys, one pulls out a knife, and Mo is like, come on, let's fight him. And Mo's driver jumps out of the car and hauls ass. Okay, he's not even trying to confront whatever's about to take place. Okay, so the two men end up jacking the car, and Blair still doesn't believe that it's true. After what happened at that engagement party, Blair's thinking Mo pulls tricks out of his ass, which he has a history of doing. Okay, so now we're going to Keith, and basically he's in an interrogation room with the FCC women, and they're interrogating him. They want Mo, is what they're stating, and Keith does not want to cooperate. They threaten him, and he tells them to basically kiss his ass. He's not concerned with them, and they bring up his gayness, and they're saying, we'll tell everyone, we'll tell your wife and your son, and okay, that basically gets him to shut up, and he sort of complies. Okay, then we're now over to Dawn, where she shows up at Tiff's bachelorette party, and Tiff kills me because when Dawn gets there, mind you, Tiff is by herself, okay, no one's there. She's at this big room, big table, all these place settings, drinks, and she's alone. But as soon as she sees Dawn, she starts talking black. Oh, girl, some people just kill me with this. Okay. Her friends, as she tells Dawn, are known to be late, like well over an hour late. They're in that whole class of people that it's more exciting for them to show up late, I guess. All right. So then we're back to Mo and Blair, and they're in the hood because they were carjacked, but Blair still doesn't believe that they were carjacked. And Blair sees two cops, and he's trying to approach them. And Mo's like, no, 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 this isn't a game. Do not go. Are you crazy? You're going to the police? Basically, Blair approaches them, and he ends up grabbing one of their guns, okay? And so he's holding them up, basically, with his gun. And he accidentally ends up shooting it off because let's not forget when Mo kidnapped him from his home, he actually used chlorophyll, whatever, to knock him out. So he's still a little hazy under whatever drug he was under. So he steals the gun and he actually ends up shooting it off. And the cops are freaked out. And what do Mo and Blair end up doing? Still in the cop's car. That's where we're at. They stole the damn cop's car, okay? So we're back to the FCC chicks who are still interrogating Keith and still threatening him. And he's trying not to give a damn, but he's still sitting there, basically. So then we're segueing back to Dawn and Tiff, who are sitting at her empty bachelorette party, and they're having drink after drink, and they're getting kind of drunk, basically. They're having a little fun, and Tiff brings up 16 Candles, the movie, okay? And Dawn is like, I haven't seen it, and Tiff's like, oh my gosh, you haven't seen 16 Candles? She says that she's basically been with Jake's all her life. And if anyone knows 16 Candles like I do, Jake is the fine guy that Molly Ringwald's character ends up with at the end of the movie. They end up kissing over the cake. Jake is the fine white boy that I don't care what color you were, you was crushing on Jake watching that movie. Anyway, Tiff says that's the kind of dude I've been with, my whole life up until now, basically. And Dawn shares that basically she's had the same past, okay, up until now. Obviously, her husband Spence is not a Jake. All right, so Tiff shares how Jake let Ted, in the movie, if we remember, Ted is a dorky white boy that's played by Anthony Michael Hall, and Jake lets him take his drunk and unconscious girl basically to have sex with her. And she's passed out. He lets him take her because, hell, I don't know why. Dawn is tripping off this. Like white folks are okay with that. And y'all, I wasn't even thinking about that. If something would have popped off between them two that night, which ultimately it didn't, that would have been raped. And I was not thinking about that. I was just thinking he needs to get rid of this girl to go after the girl he actually wants to beat. That is crazy. And it was okay in that movie, okay? It was okay for that boy to let his friend take his drunk, passed out girlfriend home. I'm done, okay? 16 Candles. I'll never look at you the same. All right. Then we're back to Mo and Blair. They're in a cop car. And basically, Mo gets a 911 page. And when he gets it, he's turning the car around because he's the one actually driving. Okay? They go from there straight back to Tiff and Dawn. And I'm giving this all to you in the order it happened in the show, okay? So Tiff is like, what couples break up and gets married and it works? She's asking because this is just exactly what her and Blair have gone through. And Dawn is like, OJ and his new white girlfriend that he just got married to, they broke up and they got married and it works fine. Obviously, this was before OJ killed his wife, okay? Let me see. She also says Robert Wagner and Natalie Woods. I have no idea who this is. I mean, I've heard the names. I don't know. Okay, Tiff says Blair was probably with a prostitute on the engagement night, because the engagement party night, because he didn't come home. She literally, a prostitute, a whole prostitute. And Dawn's like, no, she's definitely not thinking that he was a prostitute, because if we remember at the end of the last episode, which was the end of that night, Blair was smooching in the elevator with Dawn. Okay, so she knows. Tiff says she tries to discuss with her minister basically what she's going through with Blair, but basically that the minister is asking for she has to pay to get to the next level in her religion, like $100K. So I'm thinking it's Scientology, because if I remember correctly, that's the one that literally has levels that you have to pay to get from one to the other. Total bullshit. That's not a religion. That's a bank. That's a loan shark. I don't even know what to say. You loaning your soul and your spirit. Okay, let me stop. Tiff asks if Dawn ever fell out of love with somebody. And when she's asking her this, you see Dawn sort of go off into her own little mindset. And basically she's sparking her emotions over Spence because obviously she doesn't love him anymore. There's no question about that, okay? So then we have Mo and Blair, who walk into the room that Tiff and Dawn are currently sitting in. And Mo is acting so shocked. Blair, of course, is because he had no idea where Tiff was doing her thing at, but here they are. And Mo is freaking out like, oh my gosh, what a coincidence. And Tiff is like, no, it's not. She ain't buying it. Okay, so then we're back to the FCC chicks who are still over there trying to interrogate Keith. And they're going through paperwork, and they start to notice all the Georgina jeans that they've been buying. And they become suspicious basically over this. And they push Keith, and with the paperwork they're showing him, it's a paper batch that was trying to have been shredded but wasn't all the way, so it was very good to see what was going on there. And when Keith sees this, he basically folds. Okay, so he's going to work with the FCC. We're back to Blair and Dawn and Mo, and they end up discussing if they should still get married because Blair's asking that. Tiff is kind of asking that. Dawn wants them to follow their hearts, basically, and Mo is trying to cut into her because he does not agree. But Dawn is like, would you shut the hell up? This is really important because she knows what she's going through right now, okay? So, picking a Ted, basically, because Jake broke your heart doesn't mean it'll work, okay? So basically, that's the point that's going on here. They're using the characters from the 16 Candles in this situation to basically say that just because a really good-looking guy broke your heart doesn't mean that Ted is going to work, okay? Spence is not going to work, all right? Dawn ends up asking, are you in love? That's what she's asking. And right at that point, Tiff's loud, obnoxious friends walk in. They finally show up and say, after the engagement party, basically, they thought the wedding would be canceled. They didn't think it was going to happen. And Tiff is laughing. She's like, as if, slut. That's a comment she's saying to her friends. And the girls are like, let's go elsewhere, okay? Basically, they let anyone in here. And the girl who says that turns to Dawn and Mo is like, no offense. And Mo's like, the fuck this bitch just say? And Dawn's like, I'll knock the fucking head off this Barbie bitch, okay? This is funny as hell. They always get some racial crazy shit going on. I've always been aware of what was going on in the 80s, but I was not aware. But I guess this is how it goes down, y'all. Okay, so Tiff ends up leaving with her friends, thanking Dawn for showing her that her and Blair are made to be together, basically. That's a conclusion she came to after all this, but again, she was pressured because her high-class girlfriends, who she's always trying to impress, showed up. All right? And Mo is like, basically, what the fuck was that, as they leave? And Dawn basically gets up and she's like, just shut the fuck up. She tells Mo and she leaves. All right? Mo's like, good night. That's what he's telling Dawn. And Dawn's like, fuck you, Mo. That's what she says leaving the room. Okay, so then we're back. Blair tells Mo that he can't call off the wedding. I'm sorry, Blair tells Mo that he is going to call off the wedding. And Blair's like, no, you can't do that. And Blair's like, why are you so invested in my marriage? And Mo's like, I am invested. And basically at this point, Mo tells Blair about the Georgina investment that his company has made. But we're still boys. Blair, you know, I want to be there for you, but I know this is right for you. And as soon as he's finished talking, Blair is literally like, fuck you. I'm telling Tiff, and I quit. And he leaves, okay? So then we have Keith, who goes to his boy toys place, basically. And mind you, during this episode, Keith's had long hair while he's been in the interrogation room with these women. So there's got to be some kind of wig play going on here, because now that he's going to see Boy Toy, just like he did during the last episode, like the whole top part of his head is, it's cut off. I'm confused, y'all. Got to be a wig. All right, so anyway, he goes to see his Boy Toy, who's having a party at his apartment. And when he gets there, Keith gives him the emerald tie ring that he has. And he's basically telling him, no matter what, I'll always love you. I don't know what kind of deal Keith made with the FCC ladies, but that sounds like a goodbye to me. He knows that he's going to jail forever. He's going to kill him. I don't know. But it sounds like he's sort of kissing his ass goodbye, but he wants his man to know that he loves him. All right. So Dawn gets home that night, and when she walks in, Spence is all looking out of his telescope, because remember, he's trying to look at the, oh my gosh, I forgot what they're called that fall out of the sky. Ooh, comets, the comets, that's what he's trying to look at. And as she's walking in, he's forgiving her without her actually saying anything, because she's coming back much later than she intended on. And as soon as she walks in the door, you know, gets over to him, she's like, I want a divorce. Plain and simple. Right. So the next morning, they show Blair outside of his, I don't know if that's condo that they're staying in, but he's outside the building out front. He's smoking a cigarette, and he turns, you know, to the side, and he could see Tiff coming down the street towards him. And there's a van that pulls up right behind her, like she's just crossed the street and now on the block that he's on. And his van pulls up behind her, and just like the bag was put over Blair's head the night before, that's what happened to her here. And she's fighting, and it's like 3 guys that are running her into the van and closing the door, and they hightail it out of there. And that's the end of the show, folks. We'll see you next week about this time, so we can go into episode 8. Thank you for watching. If you like my videos, please hit the like button and become a subscriber. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Thanks for watching, guys.